this last week flew by.
It really did. It doesn't feel like it hasn't been 7 days since I've seen you. Right. I think that's why. Yeah, because we got together.
Yes, but also I feel like we literally just recorded the last episode as well.
Yeah, we did, which is really exciting to know that it's already here. Yeah. When I was watching the last one back, I've committed to myself to look at the camera more because I don't.
I was going to bring that up.
It's great. Yeah, I don't. Brendan brings it up to me every time. It's a comfort thing. We're working on it.
I got my first ever massage in like 7 years last night.
Oh, was it? It was really nice.
Really nice and needed.
What is your favorite area in your body to be massaged?
Honestly, I loved between my shoulder blades and my lats. Mm-hmm. That area feels really nice. She was going like over my shoulder blade over and over again. I was like, this is fucking great.
Thanks. Like, when she hit the spot.
Yeah.
Oh my god. I totally agree. I don't think I could pick a favorite. I love the back of my shoulders. Mm-hmm. My glutes are a good one. And also just like my overall legs. Sometimes they're hard, but I love it after the fact.
She also did my hips and lower back, which was really nice as well, because my lower back usually it doesn't hurt, but achy.
Yeah, you can tell that it needs some extra love. That's fair. I will say, I don't think I'm going to be going to this massage therapist again. It was a new one that I wanted to try. She just talked way too much for my liking. The work itself was great, but I was going to say, when I go and get a massage, I don't like to participate in a conversation or feel like I have to participate in a conversation. I just prefer to be mute and manhandled for the hour or 90 minutes that we have together.
It's funny you bring that up because the one and only other time I've gotten a massage was with you. We did a couples massage 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember being for mine, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
And your masseuse kept talking
the whole time.
I'm like, dude, shut up. But the irony is because last night I was talking to my masseuse the entire time.
Were you? Okay.
Yeah.
See, like, what
sorry.
No, go ahead.
But because it's my fiance gifted me a massage for my birthday. That's what it was. But it's his coworker is also in school for that. So it's her clinical hours. So I feel like, it's a coworker of OJ's. I need to not just sit in silence for an hour.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did you want to sit in silence for an hour?
Kinda.
Okay. Try it next time with her. See how it feels. I feel like also as a massage therapist, I don't know because I'm not one, but I would imagine there is some type of social cues that you learn during your training of like read the room essentially, or of like do they want to talk, do they not want to talk. She's learning too, so she could be asking for feedback in real time, which is
that's true. I'm excited for today's episode because we're talking about our all-time favorite books.
I have a feeling I have a list in mind and I have a list written down and I brought physical books with me, but I feel like as we're talking, other titles are going to start coming to my mind because they already have been. You just said.
You guys will have to bear with me because I'm the type of person where the second I close the book and I finish the last page, you can ask me what the story was about. I will have no idea, but I just know if I liked it or not.
You remember the emotional impact.
Yes.
I think that's fair. Same.
All of my favorite books, I want other people to read them, so I give them away. I think some I've donated as well, so I only have a few with me, but thankfully I keep track on my GoodReads, and I have an album of all my all-time favorites, so I'll go off of that as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I have that too. I have a little list written down that's different than the pile I have here. Some of them are audiobooks, so I don't have a physical book to bring to the conversation. And I feel like they're also going to span a variety of different genres between the two of us. There's some that we both collectively read that we both really like that are on here, and there's ones that are entirely different. Where do you want to start? What's been if you had to categorize, what do you think would be your all-time favorite book? I know I'm starting with the biggest question.
I really honestly can't answer that because I have favorite books for different reasons.
Okay.
Like Where the Crawdads Sing, just the way it was written was beautiful. A lot of Kristen Hanna books I love because while reading it, it's literally like watching a movie in my mind, and she's the only author who's done that to me. Her books are incredible.
Is she the one that wrote The Four Winds? Is that one of hers? Okay. I haven't read
That's one of them.
but okay.
One I'm going to bring up today.
Okay.
And then I have a couple thrillers on there, which I think is my all-time favorite genre to read. But I love a quick, easy whodunit type story.
Yeah, that's fair. I like those a lot when I travel, or if I'm going to be spending like a day on a plane or in a car.
Yeah, if I'm on a plane, I need to bring something I know I'm going to be interested in.
Me too. I've tried bringing like a self-help book on a plane.
Oh. Those are my least favorite
Sometimes,
books, to be honest.
I get that. I know you said that. I love them. Time and place, though. I can't, like, I typically like to read them in the beginning of the day when I'm just starting my day, but I can't read it before I go to bed, or I can't read one for a long period of time, like when I'm sitting on an airplane, because I need the time to decompress and analyze what is in that book and figure out how to apply it. Whereas when I'm sitting on a plane, I just want, like you said, the motion picture in my brain of what's happening in the book in real life. But yeah, I don't know. I think for me, the first one that came to my mind is Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning. And I think for me, part of the reason why, here I have it with me, I can show you what it looks like.
That one you gave me on the flight to Miami?
I think so, yeah. So Viktor Frankl, for those of you who don't know, is, I believe he was either a psychiatrist or a psychologist that was alive during the time of World War II, and he was brought to a concentration camp. He was brought to Auschwitz, I believe, at another point in time. And during his time in the camp, he talked with other people that were in the camp and essentially asked how they find meaning in their life given the horrendous circumstances that they're in, and the things that they had to go through and the losses that they faced. And I always bring this book with me when I travel. I don't always read it when I travel, but I like to have it with me because it just reminds me of the fact that we are all human, and it gives me a lot of compassion, I think, to hear about other people's experiences. And for me in particular, I've always been weirdly fascinated with the Holocaust and just like what that entailed and what these people went through during that time. And so for me, I really like to reference this book, especially because it says, like, one of the pieces of it that stick out most to me, if I may just ramble, are he asks some of the other inmates of this camp with him, like, how do you find meaning in the search? Or somebody asks him, rather, how do you find this meaning in, like, this torture that we all go through, the murder that happens, all of just these horrible, horrible, horrible things. And one of his responses to that was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines of, like, because of us, the world knows that evil exists. And to be able to just have, I guess, a perspective of being able to help serve humanity in a greater way, even though it is at a tremendous cost to yourself and your own suffering, I don't know, it just hits me. And it, like, I can't really describe the feeling that it leaves me with, but it has clearly left an impact on me. That was the first thing that came to my mind, and I don't even read it all that often. It just reminds me, I like to be around other humans when I'm traveling, which is why I think I bring it with me. I'm wondering if we're going to please edit this.
Huh?
Hopefully we're going to have to edit some of this out, but
I was going to say, I remember reading some of it on the plane.
Yeah. You have to be in, like, the right mood. Yeah, because I've opened it up too and been like, no, let me read a fiction book. It really does just, like, it just strikes me in the heart when I want to read it, as corny as that sounds, but it has left an impact on me, and it's one of my favorites. Yeah, I think everyone should read it at least once in their life.
Probably the equivalent on my side is 438 Days by Jonathan Franklin. And did I have you read this book?
I did read it. It's been a long time since I've read it, but I have
Me too.
as well. It's an amazing story.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Tell them what
it's a survival story, which I've read other survival stories like Solitude, which I thought was... I hate saying I thought it was boring because it's this guy's life and his day-to-day survival mode. But it was kind of boring.
Was it the writing style that was boring to you?
Yeah, and I read 100 pages at least, and every diary entry was the same.
Okay.
It's cold, I'm wet.
Yeah. See, when I first read that book, I loved it. I don't know if it was just like the time period of my life that it was. I think I was in my late teens or early 20s when I read that book for the first time. And just, I don't know, hearing about someone else's story like that, I didn't perceive it as boring. It was like one of my favorites at the time.
Maybe I'll have to read it again.
No, or it's just super redundant because Alive was like that as well, the book Alive, which was not a reenactment, but a telling of the, where are they from? They were from Chile, Argentina? It was about a plane crash that happened in the 1980s in, I believe, Chile or Argentina. A rugby team was flying to one of those countries for a match, and their pilot miscalculated their location within the mountain range, the Andes Mountains that they were in, and they crashed, and they landed at 11,000 feet. And the only way that they survived, they were up there for 72 days before they managed to find another human or get any type of help. And they managed to survive by eating their fellow passengers that had died along the way. And although that story sounds like your face is... I was going to say, although that story sounds like an incredible tale of the capacity that humans have and their will to survive, the way that book was written was not my favorite either. I felt like it was really drawn out. There wasn't a lot of detail. Like it felt like the more important scenes went really quickly, and then everything else was just really drawn out, in my opinion. My amateur opinion on books.
But with this book, 438 Days, I think Jonathan Franklin was a journalist, so he interviewed the survivor and a bunch of other people. Mm-hmm. But I was just interested the entire way through, and this book is about Jose Alvarenga, I believe his name is. He's from El Salvador, but he was a fisherman in Mexico, and there was one day that he went out to do something. He was an experienced fisherman, which thank God. Mm-hmm. But he was on some mission with this other guy, Ezekiel, and then a big storm came through and completely wrecked them, their radio, their motor, everything. So they were lost at sea. And with no radio, you obviously can't get in touch with anyone. And they talk a little bit about what the crew did to try, the rescue mission. But they didn't even have a pin on where Jose was. Mm-hmm. And without a motor, he literally was adrift at sea. He wasn't sailing or doing anything. He was letting the ocean currents just bring him along. For 438 days. If you didn't get that by the title. But over the Pacific Ocean. He traveled how many thousands of miles in that distance? Do you remember? It was around 6,700. Oh my. Yeah. So that's from here to the West Coast and back, for reference. Yeah. It's not a little longer than that. That's insane. And he survived. What the journalist, the author, he interviewed some NASA astronauts to put into perspective how big the Pacific Ocean actually is. And the astronaut said, I think it takes about 90 minutes to do one orbit around the Earth on the ISS. Mm-hmm. And 30 of those 90 minutes is just going over the Pacific Ocean. So one third of their entire trip around the globe is just over the Pacific. And our guy went most of that distance. Yeah. And so his partner lasted about 100 days, but his survival instincts weren't as strong as Jose's, because Jose at this point was catching fish with his bare hands, by the way. Fish, birds, turtles, I think even some type of sharks at some point. Oh my God. So he was looking at that as food and nutrients to stay alive. And Ezekiel was just disgusted every single time he looked at it, kept vomiting. So he stopped eating, and that's how he died. But also think about this. You're on the Pacific Ocean. The sun's beating down on you the entire time. And this isn't like a big, I don't know what different ships are called. Like a catamaran or a sailboat. Yeah, there's actually a picture that I can show you. Okay. So that is the boat he was on. There's no sun protection whatsoever on the boat. And this blue object here and here. Mm-hmm. That's an ice box
Okay.
or cooler box.
Okay.
So he would spend pretty much all day in that box to shade himself from the
Oh
sun.
my God. He wouldn't overheat in there? No ventilation or anything? Wow.
And
Wow.
once his friend died, he said he didn't eat his friend. I don't know. No one knows if that's true or not. But he said he kept him around for a little bit just to have company and someone to talk to so he doesn't go insane. And just being out in the sun, Ezekiel's body like burnt to a crisp, like was charred and black.
Yeah.
And
And
eventually,
especially since he's passed too.
Yeah.
Like, nothing is moving anymore, nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, yeah. Oh, so my respects to his family.
And then
That's sorry.
Jose he said he ended up just throwing him overboard.
Yeah, because what else can you do at
Right.
that point?
But he was explaining there were times he was so hungry and thirsty, he would drink turtle's blood. He would eat the fish raw because he couldn't wait. Because he would cut the fish and just lay it out in the sun for it to cook.
Oh my God.
And he created this system to filter rainwater. He said, obviously, it's very rare, but there was an occasional storm that passed through.
Oh my God.
And the worst part was there were so many times that other ships would go by, like cargo ships, and I don't know if he said a cruise ship or not, but the people would just wave at him because they didn't know. He didn't have any form of communication,
Right, to say that
any
he
flares. Yeah.
Oh my God. Can you imagine being one of those people on those ships and then seeing this book come out, however much later in that? That's incredible. Wow.
And then, so yeah, he ended up, I think they're called the Marshall Islands in the Pacific. He ended up just washing ashore there, and that's how he was found.
So there were people on that island? Wow.
And after over a year of talking to no one, he didn't know how to talk to the people on the island. Yeah. Well, he didn't know how to communicate.
I totally believe that. Considering I have no actual proof of this, but I feel like that has happened to me since the pandemic and being inside.
Yeah.
So
I'm definitely a lot more socially awkward now.
Me too, and I feel like a lot. Which is maybe part of our charm, but maybe not. Maybe a side effect of something greater. So I can completely understand that. Also, where my mind goes in that type of a situation is, and maybe this is just recognition that my life has never been in danger like that before, but after going through something like that, I imagine this is similar to how veterans must feel at times when they reintegrate, but after going through what you have gone through in that type of experience, especially in this case of 438 days, how does one just acclimate back to society? Like, how do you just go to the grocery store? And how do you hang out with friends? And how do you know what I mean? I have so much respect and admiration for people and the things that they go through, because that's just such an inspiring story at the end of the day of what somebody is able to go through and still come out on the other side. Yeah. It really makes you think.
He also described how the stars were at night. But imagine how scary that is as well when it's pitch black and you're in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah, during the new moon too, when there's no moon. During the full moon, you'd at least have.
It just gave me chills.
Yeah, that's incredible. It really is.
So yeah, I think everyone should read that book.
These are good ones. Both real life humans, both about real life people. I appreciate that. Memoirs truly are one of my favorite type of book to read or listen to, and I think it's because I have such a fascination with learning about other people's lived experiences, because it truly is so different than my own, and I just appreciate hearing what other people make of their life, essentially. One of my favorite audiobooks that I've listened to that is a memoir is Trevor Noah's Born a Crime. Have you heard of this? Okay, I'll read you the full title. That's just there's a colon and then born. It's Born a Crime, Stories from a South African Childhood by Trevor Noah. Okay, so not much more than that, actually. But essentially,
he was born in South Africa?
He was born in South Africa during apartheid.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So he's obviously mixed. So he was quite literally born illegally at that time. And it's all about the stories that he told are all about how him and his, I think he has siblings, I don't remember, how they grew up with his mom, and how his mom truly was just such a fighter in every sense of the word. Like, she always found a way around any obstacle that was thrown at her. At one point, she raised her kids like by herself because she legally was not allowed to be seen with this man because they were of different races, and at the time and place it was illegal. Yeah, crazy stuff. And he talked a lot about just different experiences he had growing up mixed in that lifestyle. It's one of my favorites, and I think part of the reason why I love it so much too, though, is because he's the narrator of it. So the emphasis and the language and the tone, it does. Oh my god, it was so great. It made it comical almost. Sorry, Trevor, that wasn't meant to be rude, but like he made it very entertaining to listen to, and also it just, I think, helped me to fully grasp some of the seriousness of what he was saying and the context of what he was saying by having that tone. Yeah. That's also a really, really good one.
See, I cannot listen to audiobooks. No.
Why?
It's something about holding a physical book and like flipping through the pages. I feel like an audiobook, I wouldn't be paying attention.
That's fair. I listen to them a lot when I drive or when I clean or like just doing something with my hands. I only really like to listen to the ones that the authors narrate, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I probably would too.
Because they make it that much better.
That's why I want to listen to Jeanette McCurdy's. I'm glad my mom died. She narrates hers.
That's on my TBR too. I want to read that so badly. My mom read that, and she said that she thinks I would really like it based off of some of the stories that she told. Yeah.
I'm probably going to have to buy it soon. It's just been in my room.
I'll read it when you're done. Yep. Cool. Another one that's on my list. Let's see. I don't know where I want to go to, what direction I want to take this in.
I just randomly thought of one for me.
We'll go.
The Last One by Will Dean. It's a thriller.
Never read it.
Oh my god, I read it in 24 hours.
Oh,
I could not put it down.
Okay.
It's about this couple who goes on some cruise and they meet other people, they have dinner, they go to bed. The next morning, the woman wakes up and her husband's missing. And then she goes out of her room, opens the door, and all the other cabins, the doors are wide open. No one's in their rooms. She starts walking around, come to find out no one else but her is on the ship.
Why? But she didn't notice that before? Or were there people before and now they're not?
Yeah. There were people before.
There were,
she went to sleep. The next morning, everyone's gone.
So what happened? Spoil it.
I don't know if I want to.
I'm not going to read it personally. For those of you who are going to read it, I would just suggest skipping ahead 30 to 60 seconds.
Yeah. So it ends up being a reality TV show.
Oh.
They somehow got everyone off board. It's bordering sci-fi because some of the stuff would never happen in real life. But yeah, pretty much a survival challenge game show.
To see if she can figure it out.
And there are other people who were on the ship and they're competing against each other.
Oh. It gives me Hunger Games vibes.
It was really cool. I loved it.
That sounds like that would be a good like pass the time. Yeah.
That's a good plane read.
Yeah, that is a good plane read. It sounds like it. I can see that. What's it called? The
Last One.
The Last One. Okay. I'm gonna add that to my notes. You know what other author I really enjoy for twists like that is
Riley. Oh.
Alice Feeney. You go? Who were you thinking of?
I was gonna say Riley Sager.
I don't know who that is.
He's amazing, but you go.
Okay. So I've read a few Alice Feeney books now. You've given me one of them, Rock, Paper, Scissors. And the one that I just read recently that I love.
Can I take that home with me?
Yeah, they can. I was going to send it to Tasha and I forgot to hear. Sorry, Tosh. I'll just send you one from Amazon. Yeah, Beautiful Ugly by Alice Feeney. I'm going to give this to you now so we don't forget. You're welcome. So this book is about an author named Grady whose wife randomly goes missing. One day they start off the book with that, and I won't spoil it. I'll be mindful.
I'm like giving her a death.
Yeah, I know. I'll be mindful. She disappears one day, and a year goes by, and nobody's found her. There's been no trace of her. He has no idea what's going on, and his publisher is essentially like, okay, like, I think you should go to this island. I think it would be it's really remote. I think it would help you get your writing back, because he's obviously had writer's block and not been able to produce a novel this entire time. Which is the second Alice Feeney book that I've read about an author writing about an author, which I enjoy. But anyways, so he goes to this island, and I'm just going to leave it at this. He sees his wife on this random remote island in Scotland after she's disappeared for a year. That's all I'm going to say. I think everybody should read this book, because within the last couple chapters, one of the most unexpected twists that I've had in a book, and it did not end the way that nearly at all the way I thought it was going to end. And it's just, it's really good. I think you should read it. I think everyone should read it. We actually don't read it.
I'm kind of in a reading slump now, so I'm looking for something exactly like this. Oh, okay,
yeah,
perfect.
I really liked it.
You know what that reminded me of? What you just said about a twist that you didn't know.
I think I know which one you're going to.
Wish You Were Here.
Oh no!
By Jodi Picoult.
She's a good author too. Yeah.
Talk about.
I remember the twist at the end of that. I read that. You gave that one to me. I don't remember.
So it's about this girl who was going to go to the Galapagos with her boyfriend, hoping to be fiance on that trip.
Mm-hmm.
He's a surgeon, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, COVID happens, and he's forced to remain working. He can't go on the trip. He said, "I still want you to go and enjoy yourself." So she goes by herself. Come to find out, I think the pandemic literally started the day she landed there or something. So she was alone pretty much. I mean, locals lived there.
Mm-hmm.
But she couldn't leave. No one could come in. Her luggage was lost, a bunch of crap. And literally half the book is her time on the islands. She befriends this local family. Come to find out halfway through the book, it was all a hallucination from COVID, apparently. A side effect of COVID. And she wakes up in the hospital.
I don't think they specifically call it COVID, do they?
No,
I just say
they do.
Oh, okay. I can't remember. Oh,
yeah! Mm-hmm.
I totally forgot about that.
My mouth literally dropped when I was reading that part. I was like, oh my god. I wouldn't have any clue that it was coming.
Especially based on Jodi Picoult's writing, too. She's an amazing author.
Yeah, she is. Right? And she's a New Hampshire native. I don't know if she's a native, but she lives in New Hampshire right now.
Yeah, agreed. Mad Honey is another one that I really like by her, too.
I liked that.
I had some social issues with that one.
Yeah.
She talked about certain political things that I'll just say didn't care to read about.
Which that's fine to do, but in that book, I feel like it was pretty constant.
It felt forced a little.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, it was obviously prevalent to what was going on at that point in time when it was being written about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that was another one that I really like. I think I also have a liking to that one because it's based in New Hampshire and about the person that has honeybees, and I have honeybees. Yeah. So I felt like a lot of personal connection to it. And I also love reading her writing and hearing her reference places that I've been to and being able to hear her perspective on it. It's just, I think it's really cool.
And just know where it's taking place.
Yes. And being like, I haven't been there. But yeah, agreed. What else do we have in here? This one's probably going a little nerdy. You Are the Placebo. Making Your Mind Matter by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's also one of my favorites.
See, that's something I'd never read.
Yeah, it's honestly it's a lot of case studies. It's basically all case studies about different people's experiences and different studies and different research groups, all focusing around the placebo effect. And I love this shit. I think it's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
One of the studies that they one of the examples that they reference in there is there's this patient who, for those of you who don't know, the placebo effect is, I'm definitely going to butcher this from anybody in the psych world. It's essentially you're given a treatment that is a placebo, or it's something that is disguised to make you think it's going to work, but it's not actually going to work. And the people giving this item to you know that it's not going to work, to see if your mind will do the thing that this thing that you're taking is going to do, like a placebo medication. And you get a control group who takes the actual medication, and then you get a group who's taking a placebo or a sugar pill. One of these examples that's in this book is this man was diagnosed with, I don't know if it was throat cancer. It was a type of cancer, and it was supposedly very aggressive. And his doctor told him point blank, you have X amount of time left to live. I forget what the exact amount of time was. So this person naturally declined and declined and declined. And then once that arbitrary time limit was arrived, he passed away. And his family did an autopsy on him, and all of the results from it showed that he didn't actually have any type of cancer whatsoever. So the argument was that because a doctor told him that he was going to die, he mentally made himself so sick that he actually died. That's an example of the placebo working negatively and not in our favor. This has more examples like that and also other positive ones too, but I like to read it because it's an interesting reminder for me of how powerful my brain is and the stories that our minds tell, and also how often our brain just makes up stories that aren't even real. And it just helps me, I think, to just make those paths a little bit more clearer in my mind, so I don't try and have thoughts like that, negative thoughts. Obviously it does happen, but it's just a nice reminder for me of like the importance of our brain and how much our own thinking impacts our quality of life, whether we believe it or not. Mm-hmm.
See, I do find that stuff interesting, but I cannot sit down and read it.
So how can you consume it?
Maybe podcast, listen to it.
Okay. Or like a documentary, like watching something about it? Okay. With a visual component?
That's the point I wanted to bring up today, actually. It's funny because I love watching documentaries, but I don't want to say hate, but nonfiction memoirs, I don't care. Isn't that weird?
No,
I know.
I think it's just the way you like to consume it, like you said. I don't think that's...
And I feel like when I read, I want to get away from real life and like create something in my mind that's not real. So yeah.
That's fair. I can definitely see that. Yeah. What else is on yours?
That
was not fiction. How about the other one that you brought?
I know.
Interesting.
Again, really the only ones I had.
So. Depends on the mood.
The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. She wrote The Nightingale, which is a very popular book. And that's like her number one. People are obsessed with that one. I read it and I liked it, but compared to The Great Alone and The Four Winds, I'll talk about that one after.
Mm-hmm. So give us a summary of this one, because I don't know what this one's about. Is this another historical fiction?
No, this is just plain fiction.
Okay.
I just love the cover by itself as well. Sometimes I buy books just because the cover's pretty.
Yeah, like that. Sorry, it was really shiny.
This book, I read it nonstop on my flight home from New Orleans.
Did you finish it?
I didn't finish it. I had already read some, but I just mean the entire 4 or 5 hours, whatever it was, I was reading. It was that good. Okay. So it's set in Alaska in the 70s. Ooh. And it's this family, parents and one daughter. I forget her name. Lenny. And her father is a war vet. He has PTSD. And he just keeps getting more paranoid as the years go on. And it's kind of a parallel between how the winters in Alaska can get dark and cold. I think dark for like 20 hours a day at some point. The parallel between that and then how dark it is inside the home because of the dad with PTSD. He becomes very violent to both the mom and the daughter. And it's basically the daughter growing up and what her life is like in Alaska. And
that sounds so good.
It's amazing.
Can I borrow it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Maddie just gave it back to me.
Perfect. Thank you, Maddie.
Yep.
This sounds really good. Wow.
I would love to hear your thoughts on it when you finish. But Maddie said the same thing. She loved it. And she said that she never cries while reading books, and she was sobbing in that one.
I see the tear stains.
Do you?
No.
Oh.
No, I also was not looking for that. Oh my god, yay. Thank you.
So The Four Winds by her.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I like that one better than that, but then I can't choose.
Reasons too,
For
right?
different reasons, but also probably because I read The Four Winds more recently. That I read 2 years ago.
Okay.
Wait, last year.
That's
Last year.
Yeah.
And The Four Winds was earlier this year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So The Four Winds is a historical fiction, and it's set in the panhandle of Texas in the, I think, early 30s through the 40s, so during and after the Great Depression. And it's a farming family, and it's about the Great Dust Bowl as well. So since they're in the Great Depression, they can't buy what they need to survive. It's so dry, there's a drought for like 4 years straight.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so their crops aren't growing, they can't sell their livestock, nothing. And so it's kind of, it follows one family. They're like the main characters, but it follows them, traveling west to California in search of a better life. And it's completely unknown. They don't know if it is or not. They have fire out there. They don't know if they should give up their land and their home in Texas or go to California.
Yeah. That sounds really good too.
That book had me sobbing.
Like, that's like a Kristen Horner one.
That's
good books now that have made people sob. Yeah.
Yeah. And reading her books to me is literally like watching a movie in my mind.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the book that I'm reading right now called All the Light You Cannot See. So
that sounds familiar. Is that a movie?
I think they're making it into a Netflix show. I think it might be. Yeah, I think some media is being made on it. But it's a dual narrative set in. One of them is set in Germany, and the other one is set in, I think, Poland during World War II in Nazi Germany. And one of the narrations is from a blind girl whose father works at the local museum. And then the other narrative is set from an orphan who gets enrolled into Hitler's army. Essentially, I think he's like, I want to say 7, but that might be crazy. Maybe he's 11. Not that that's better. But a child soldier, essentially, that gets drafted into Hitler's army. And then throughout both of their past, they both end up at the same city, at the same place. And I haven't gotten that far yet, so I don't know what happened then. But I'm assuming they canoodle, or I'm assuming there's some important thing that happens with their relationship, and I obviously am not there yet. But the way that the author writes this story, it makes me feel like I'm there at that point in time, which is so crazy because it's all in my head. Oh, you know what the other one I put on here was? Which I've also listened to on Audible lately. It is another self-help one, but it's The Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. That one is such a good listen/read. Not just because of the message that the book gives, but again, because of how she narrates it. Like she cries at certain points during it, like while she's reading it, and I am just listening to it in my car, like, there's just something about the power of listening to another human's experience and how they interpret it, especially when it can relate to your own life in that way. I don't know. The Let Them Theory is a really good one too. You haven't read the book, but I know you've listened to her podcast on it, and essentially it's just basically like recognizing the finiteness of your own energy and choosing to not be bothered by something that normally would bother you, and instead to commit to a new behavior that you actually have control over, or a new action that you have control over, which is sometimes really much easier said than done. But that one's another good one that's on my list.
One that I found is kind of another thriller. It's called The Chain. And honestly, I only got this book because it was part of the buy one get one 50% off deal. And it was just the other one on the table that looked the most interesting. But it's basically also kind of, it would be a great movie plot. This woman gets a phone call from a robotic voice. She has no idea who it is. And it says, "Oh, I have your daughter here with me. The only way you can get her back is if you kidnap like another kid. You are now part of the chain." So it like keeps going on and on and on and on.
Okay.
And again, one of those books I don't really remember what happened in it. I just know that I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
And it was tense and fast paced.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really liked it.
Okay. That's cool. That sounds really interesting. Thriller is such a good genre. I just have to be I can't read it before I go to bed.
Oh, another good one is The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. And I believe it's New Year's Day. I think it's New Year's Day. Everyone in the entire world wakes up with, I think it's a little box by them. And they open it up and there's a piece of rope inside. And they come to find out everyone's rope length is different. And they come to find out that it represents how much longer you have left to live.
Oh my God. I thought you were going to say, another person has one the same length and you two are soulmates.
No.
Wow, that's a good turn.
Yeah.
That's a good turn. Interesting.
And once the public figures that out, it's just they focus on certain people throughout the book. But what they do with the last of their lives.
What's that one called again?
The Measure.
The Measure. Do you remember who the author is?
Nikki Ehrlich.
Nikki Ehrlich. Okay, I'm adding that to my list. I'm sure that one sounds really good. Love it.
If you couldn't tell, thrillers are... That's not really a thriller, but thrillers are probably my favorite books to read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Again, Riley Sager. I don't think I have any of his books on my favorites list, but he has really, really good ones.
What are some of the things he's written?
The Only One Left. That's really good. The House Across the Lake.
Yes, I read that one. Yeah. Okay, I didn't know the author's name. That is a good one.
So that's all I have on here.
Nice. I like that. Yeah, we can tell thriller is a little bit of your thing.
Yeah.
I like it. I think historical fiction probably one of my top favorites.
I never used to be into that, but because of Kristen Hanna, I'm starting to dibble-dabble.
Yeah.
Because the second I finished The Four Winds, I was researching The Great Dust Bowl, and which reminds me, let me bring up a picture of that.
Okay, please do. But no, seriously, similar to why I think I love memoirs so much is I think historical fiction for me, even though I do take it all with a grain of salt, but it paints a picture of just another person's lived experience that I'll never live because it wasn't my own.
If you like historical fiction, you know what you should read? 11/22/63 by Stephen King.
Okay.
And it's about the JFK assassination, but it also has to do with time travel.
11/22/63.
Yep.
Okay.
And it also has to do with time travel. And yeah, it's 800 pages.
Okay, thanks for
But
that
it's
preface.
really good.
Okay.
This is the just
For Stephen King, I think I should have known. Yeah, that's insane.
Okay, and also,
my God.
Also, I was reading reviews of The Four Winds, and I want to read you a quote that from the author in the book, just how incredible it is, the way she describes it.
Dude, I have a quote for my next book too that I want to read. Yay.
Okay, so this is how she describes like the Great Dust Bowl, the huge storm.
Okay.
This is from the perspective of Elsa, I think her name is. That's the mom/wife in the story.
Okay.
The wind picked up, ruffled Elsa's dress. She paused in beating the rug, sweat running down her face, and tented a hand over her eyes. Past the outhouse, a murky, urine-yellow haze burnished the sky. Elsa tilted her sun hat back, stared out at the sickly yellow horizon. Dust storm. The newest scourge of the Great Plains. The sky changed color, turned red-brown. Wind picked up, barreled across the farm from the south. A Russian thistle hit her in the face, tore the skin from her cheek. A tumbleweed spiraled past. A board flew off the chicken coop and cracked into the side of the house. The cows mooed angrily and pushed into each other, pointing their bony butts into the dust storm. Static electricity made their tails stand out. A flotilla of birds flew past them, flapping hard, cawing and squawking, outrunning the dust.
I could picture that in my mind.
Right?
Oh my God.
She's the perfect amount of descriptive, and her writing style, anyone can read it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I find myself reading a book and I have to look up every other word.
Yeah.
I'm like, just talk like a normal person, I'm sorry.
Well, it makes it so much more accessible too, and to be able to paint that kind of picture. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, you shared that. I love that. That's how I feel about the writer I don't know how to pronounce her name. She's a Turkish writer. I think it's Elif Shafak. Elif Shafak. I've read her book 40 Rules of Love. That was one of my favorites. And then also The Island of Missing Trees.
I still have to read them.
I gave it to her, I don't even know how many months ago. But it's I'm just kidding. But that one is also a historical fiction that is a dual narrative. So it's set, I think, in the 50s or the 60s in Cyprus, Greece, at the time where, depending on your ethnicity and where you were from, you did not necessarily associate with the other one. So at that point in time, like if you were Turkish or if you were a Cypriot or a Greek, you would not interact with one another. So one of those narratives is, of course, a love story of one from each side, and how they had to like run around in secret and how they eventually were able to live their life in public and not have to be afraid anymore of the repercussions of their relationship. And they ended up opening up a restaurant. And one of the other narration is from the perspective of the fig tree that's in their restaurant. And I'm laughing because I've never even thought about how trees perceive life around them, let alone like have read a book where that's like one of the main characters. But similar to Kristen Hanna, the way that she writes had just really stopped me in my tracks to make me think. And because of that book, I feel like I mentioned this on one of our last episodes. Like I don't look at trees the same way now, as corny as that sounds. But one of the pieces that I have a quote from that book that I wanted to read too, to kind of capture that. And because I feel like I just really love how it sounds. I think I sent this to you before, but it says, this is from the perspective of the fig tree. Humans walk by us every day. They sit and they sleep, they smoke and they picnic in our shade. They pluck our leaves and gorge themselves on our fruit. They break our branches, riding them like horses as children. Or they use them to birch themselves into submission when they become older and crueler. They carve their lover's name in our trunks and vow eternal love. They weave necklaces out of our needles and paint our flowers into art. They split us into logs and heat their homes. They split us into logs to heat their homes. And sometimes they chop us down just because we obstruct their view. They make cradles, wine corks, chewing gum, and rustic furniture, and produce the most spellbinding music out of us. They turn us into books in which they love themselves on cold winter nights, where they use our wood to they also use our wood to manufacture coffins in which they end their lives, buried 6 feet under along with us. And they even compose romantic poems to us, calling us the link between the earth and the sky, and yet they still do not see us.
Oh my god.
Who knew that a fig tree could be so deep? It's such a good book. At the end of the book, too, which I don't have written here, that I wanted to reference, but I just don't have it, is she also talks about all of the different types of trees and the qualities that they have. Like the one that sticks out most to me is it was said something along the lines of, if you look to the birch tree, notice it's shedding its layers and it's like peeling its skin back and it's constantly going through a new transformation, things like that, but with other different types of trees, oaks, palm trees, hemlocks, fig trees, fruit trees. Like it just was so beautifully written, and I've already had a deep appreciation for nature, but I think it amplified it that much more.
All right, I'll have to move that up my list.
Isn't it beautiful?
I know.
Sometimes it can feel a little drawn out, but I just think it's such a unique perspective that I've never read about before, and
that is true.
It stopped me in my tracks. Yeah, she's a fantastic author. I really recommend it. Yeah, that was one of my all-time favorites too. Yeah, what else do I have? I think I don't really want to talk about something. I just brought like every memoir I had. Do you know which one I've always wanted to read, but I haven't fully read yet? Is The Year of Magical Thinking by Joan Didion.
What's that?
So this is a memoir, and this woman wrote this book shortly after her husband died. And I bought it shortly after our best friend passed away. So I've had it for a good minute. Mm-hmm. Still haven't opened it yet, because I think like emotionally I'm not fully ready. Yeah. But just the things that I've heard about this book are amazing, in the way that she writes and how she talks about love and death and how to not move on, but I guess, how you continue to live after a person that you love so much is no longer physically here. So yeah, I have it for when I'm ready, but I haven't fully read it yet.
Oh my god.
But I know it's going to be one that I think will really love too.
Yeah.
I'm telling memoirs and historical fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I have literally 2 other memoirs.
My friend, another Kristen Hanna book that just recently came out, she read that, The Women, I think it's called. And that is set, I believe, in the Vietnam War. Women can be heroes. When 20-year-old nursing student Frances Frankie McGrath hears these words, it is a revelation. Raised in the sun-drenched idyllic world of Southern California and sheltered by her conservative parents, she has always prided herself on doing the right thing. But in 1965, the world is changing, and she suddenly dares to imagine a different future for herself. When her brother ships out to serve in Vietnam, she joins the Army Nurse Corps and follows his path. As green and inexperienced as the men sent to Vietnam to fight, Frankie is overwhelmed by the chaos and destruction of war. Every day is a gamble of life and death, hope and betrayal, hope and betrayal. Friendships run deep and can be shattered in an instant. In war, she meets and becomes one of the lucky, the brave, the broken, and the lost. But war is just the beginning for Frankie and her veteran friends. The real battle lies in coming home to a changed and divided America, to angry protesters, and to a country that wants to forget Vietnam. The Women is the story of one woman gone to war, but it shines a light on all women who put themselves in harm's way and whose sacrifice and commitment to their country has too often been forgotten. A novel about deep friendships and bold patriotism, The Women is a richly drawn story with a memorable heroine whose idealism and courage under fire will come to define an era. So there's over 1 million ratings. Look how many of them are 5-star.
Whoa. Most of them it's most of them. There we go, that worked. Oh. You're forgetting this tech thing.
Oh, she's just incredible. She's my favorite author by far. 100%.
Yeah, it's awesome. I don't know if I have a favorite author. I don't think I do. Well, I think I've read mostly Jodi Picoult books.
I've read a lot of hers.
I think 4 of hers now.
Yeah.
I say a lot. She has like over 20.
19 minutes is a...
Yeah, now that I fully know, to be honest, I bought that book solely based off the cover. And now that I know what it's about...
Death.
Yeah. I know what it's about. I don't want to read it. I think also when I was reading the summary on the back, it didn't click in my mind that it was about a school shooting.
Yeah.
And now I don't want to read it because I feel like I want to read something. Or more like...
It took me,
I don't know,
at least 3 tries to fully get into it. I had to keep restarting it because of the subject, but...
Yeah, it sounds like a heavy read.
Mm-hmm.
A tough read. That was how I felt about this book right here. It's called Wish You Were Here. Or While You Were Out. Just kidding. While You Were Out. So opposite. A polar opposite. This was a memoir, an intimate family portrait of mental illness in a silent era. So, I'm going to read the summary for you really quickly too. Growing up in the 1960s in the suburbs of Chicago, Meg Kissinger's family seemed to live a charmed life. With 8 kids and 2 loving parents, the Kissingers radiated a warm, boisterous energy. Whether they were spending summer days on the shores of Lake Michigan, barreling down ski slopes, or navigating the trials of their Catholic school, the Kissingers always knew how to live large and play hard. But behind closed doors, a harsher reality was unfolding. A heavily medicated mother hospitalized for anxiety and depression, a manic father prone to violence, and children in the throes of bipolar disorder and depression, 2 of whom take their own lives. Through it all, the Kissingers faced the world with their signature dark humor and the unspoken family rule, never talk about it. While You Were Out begins as the personal story of one family's struggles, then opens outward, as Kissinger details how childhood tragedy catalyzed a journalism career focused on exposing our country's flawed mental health care system. Combining the intimacy of memoir and the rigor of investigative reporting, this book explores the consequences of shame, the havoc of botched public policy, and the hope of offering new treatment strategies. This is a story of one family's love and devotion in the face of relentless struggle. It is a book for anyone who cares about someone with mental illness. In other words, it is a book for everyone.
Jeez.
This book brought me to tears multiple times.
Really?
Yeah, I gave it to my mom and she gave it back because she couldn't read it. Yeah. So I think one of the things that stands out most to me is just the intensity of the mental illness that is in this family. Like the first person that committed suicide and took their own life, I believe the way that she did it. So she had tried multiple times. It was I believe one of her older sisters. She tried a few times to commit suicide and she was unsuccessful. And then the way that she was successful was she snuck out of the house in the middle of the day and like walked into a moving train. Yeah. The other one that committed suicide in here, which I believe was one of their brothers, he, I believe, hung himself in their basement, if I remember correctly. But I just can't imagine again, I'm appreciating her openness and vulnerability in sharing this story because I myself have not lost anybody to suicide. I've had friends in my life that have attempted it, but have not been successful. But to have it so prevalent in a family structure, it was very eye-opening to me. But it was a hard, it was tough. It was very, very emotional. But it was one of my favorite memoirs that I've written. I think because of that.
I feel like we should end on a happy note.
Yeah. What else do we got? Let's show them that one.
Okay. Oh yeah, good idea.
So the one Lauren's grabbing is probably one of our favorite books. We both have it. We've had it for what? Oh my god, maybe 10 years now.
No, maybe you.
Okay.
I've had mine since I think 2018.
Okay. But it is an up-close look of every natural phenomenon and wonder on our planet.
And it's set up in the most amazing way. It's by country and then certain parts of the country.
Mm-hmm. Certain climates.
Oh,
mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
And it has
amazing, the graphs,
let's show them a picture maybe. But it's just, this
Niagara Falls.
Oh, that one was pretty too. That one too. All of it.
Horseshoe.
Yeah. Beautiful. As our love for nature continues and expands past hiking and camping. But that book was really cool to dive into. And I think I learned a lot from it, just about our planet in general. There's so many things.
The White Mountains.
Do they?
Yeah.
In here?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember seeing that.
Oh, this.
Oh, yeah.
How beautiful is that?
Where is that?
Yeah.
So somewhere in New Hampshire. Yeah. Represent. This is where we live, everyone.
In case it's this one.
I was going to say Natural Wonders on page 35. 25. Sorry. As you can tell, we're open to reading all types of genres.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear what your guys' favorite reads are right now, or the favorite thing that you've read most recently. Tell us in the comments down below.
I love adding more to my list.
Yeah.
So.
Same. There's never too many to be on the TBR. It's an ever-growing list forever.
Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.